you go to any philosophy class and really it's a war on religion and a war on Islam specifically, but it's a war on religion in the field of academia, in all the circles of academia. History professors will say religion is responsible for the world's violence, religion is responsible for all of the hatred, religion is responsible for crime, religion is responsible for this, religion is responsible for that. Of course, ignoring that the Crusades were because of the economic bankruptcy of Europe, that all of these terrorist groups that we have today are for political reasons and not religious reasons. But hey, it's under the banner of Islam. The Ku Klux Klan is under the banner of Christianity. Religion is to blame for all of this, and we'd all be at peace. Of course, these people have never read about the Marxist revolution. They've never read about the Tamil Tigers. They've never read about Japanese kamikazes. They've never read about the oppression that takes place in so many different parts of the world under a secular regime. But you know what? It's all religion to blame. You know what? Fine. What about all of the positives? What about the meaning that it gives to a person's life? What about purpose? Because I know for myself, I can say this without any hesitation, that if it wasn't for Islam, I would be a miserable creature. I would be a miserable human being. I would have no purpose, and you know what? I would not be able to weather any storm. And you know what James Baldwin said? He said, the man that needs to be feared most in society is someone who has nothing to lose. People that have meaningless lives, lives of no purpose, that will inflict meaningless on other people's lives because they can't deal with their own meaningless lives. Newtown, right? Those types of shootings. What would drive a person? What makes a person so sick to go and murder little children in an elementary school? Meaningless. There's no life. And you know, subhanallah, when Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, istajibu lillahi wa lirrasuli idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. O you who believe, answer the call of your Lord and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam if they call you to that which gives you life. Because if you don't have purpose, you don't have life. And you know what? That's why people who have all of the great circumstances for happiness in the world, because people think that happiness means that I can chill and I don't have to do anything, that I live a stress-free life. People equate a lack of stress and a lack of work with happiness, but the opposite is actually true. Because when people have nothing to do, they become miserable. They give themselves work. Because everyone needs to feel productive. You need to feel like you're achieving something meaningful, or else life becomes not worth it, and so people will take their own lives. So subhanAllah, people think that if I'm not committed to Islam, if I have no commitment, then everything will be okay. You know, man, those atheists, they must be living it up. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to answer to nobody. Number one, there's no such thing as a true atheist, and this is our creed as Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, no such thing as a pure atheist. They all believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For those people who need science to confirm Quran and Sunnah, read about the God spot. Every single person believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, Edward Young, who's a professor in Princeton, who ran lie detector tests on atheists and they all failed their lie detector tests. You know what he said? He said, you wouldn't be arguing with God and you wouldn't be mad at him if you didn't believe in him. You're just mad at him because your dad didn't buy you a PlayStation when you were 13. Right? Something happened in your life and you couldn't understand why, and so you decided to tell yourself that nobody knows why. It makes no sense. I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing. And let me ask you this question. Have you ever met a happy atheist, content with sakina, tranquility? Like, have you ever met a humble atheist before? They're always confrontational. They're angry people. Because that void is there and it can't be filled with other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're ignoring that. And so that's misery in and of itself. And shaqa, the opposite of sa'ada that the Prophet ﷺ describes, the opposite of happiness is shaqa, means deprivation. Shaqi, deprived of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore, lahu ma'ishatan dhanka, they have a suffocating lifestyle. Now imagine that person having a meaningless life in and of itself is miserable. Imagine when that person has to deal with a tragedy in their lives. How are they supposed to weather that storm? Seriously. You know, compare the Sahaba who would lose children, lose their legs sometimes, right? A person like Abi Qilaba al-Jurmi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who was blind, lost both of his arms, lost both of his legs, and was still always saying alhamdulillah, to Kobe Bryant, who rants on Facebook about his torn ACL in his $13 billion mansion or whatever it is. Seriously. And you know, Imam Zayd was just talking about how Islam gives us happiness. It gives us that sense of meaning. It gives us something to live for. It gives us something to keep us going. Eleanor Roosevelt, you know what she says? She says happiness should not be a goal. Happiness is not a goal. She says it's a byproduct of a life well lived. Happiness is not a goal. It's a byproduct of a life well lived. As Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he said, if the kings knew the joy that we were in, if they knew how happy we were, he said the kings would send their armies to sanction us to try to take it from us. And he was rich before, radiyallahu anhu wa rahimahullah. But he said if they knew how happy we were and how much joy we had, because as Ata rahimahullah said, and my time is up, I'm sorry. As Ata rahimahullah said, that a good deed yields 3 moments of happiness. When you do the good deed, you feel good. Did you ever feel bad after praying Fajr? Or doing some da'wah or doing some relief work? When you do the good deed, every time you look back and you remember it. Imam Siraj, how sweet is it every time you look back at the origins of Masjid al-Taqwa? When you reflect on that. When you look back on it. And then he said, and the greatest joy is when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear brothers and sisters, happiness is a disposition. It's not circumstantial.